Harris, what's going on, man? Welcome to SaaS Sauce. It's great to have you here and great to finally meet you. How are you doing today?
How's it going, guys? Great to chat.
Doing good, doing good. I think a great way to start off is just for you to give the listeners who don't already know about Outbound Sync a little overview of what it is that you guys do and kind of what the product looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So OutboundSync is a HubSpot and a Salesforce app, and basically, as teams are using these kind of new scaled outbound tools, increasingly, bigger and bigger teams are starting to use them. Mid-market teams, 250 to 2,500 employee teams are starting to use these and really kind of bake them into their process. So right now, we integrate with SmartLead, Instantly, Email Bison, and HeyReach. And so when these bigger teams start using these newer tools, they have a lot of like process requirements and compliance requirements. They got to get the data in, and then they need to be able to route it to people, see what's working, see what's not working, manage opt-outs or do not contact lists. And so we help solve for those problems, basically using using HubSpot and Salesforce, their kind of preferred system of record, their preferred way to work. So yeah, we kind of sit between growth hackers and kind of revenue and sales operations teams at scale ups. I mean, we have smaller companies who use us too, but I would say the people who really value what we do are the ones who are trying to do this stuff with like slightly bigger teams.
Gotcha. Right. I mean, just to be using HubSpot or Salesforce, especially, you're probably already a reasonably sized team, so that makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. I'd love to know a little bit more about where the idea for the product came from, because I know you have some agency experience before it, and that kind of led into the product. So, like, how did you come up with the idea in the first place? Because I really love these tools where it seems like kind of such a simple thing, but then you can build a massive company about just like this one very specific problem, and it's kind of just a simple, elegant solution.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. It's definitely very simple, very niche product. I had been running an agency about almost 3 years ago that I had a client. We were a SmartLead partner and a HubSpot partner, and we had a client who said, "Hey, can't we get this SmartLead stuff into HubSpot?" And the answer at the time was no. Not easily, not basically, not off the shelf. And so I said, okay, well, let's try to build something in Make. So we built something in Make and put it out there. After that came out, SmartLeads released their own integration and realized that we had solved for a lot of problems that they chose to leave out of the scope for their integration. So there was still a lot of room for what we were building, basically. We just went really deep with it. And so that was like, okay, let's go. There was a lot of traction, a lot of interest. And so, and then, refactored it into full code and then had customers who just wanted the SaaS and didn't want the bundled agency services. And so it was just kind of like steadily getting kind of higher levels of validation that this was something that people wanted. So it's been 2.5, almost 3 years now. And so just been working on this a lot since then. I had run my agency and run professional services from like 2019 to, last year, 2024 is when I shut the agency down. So I ran that agency for about 5 years total. But yeah, that's what got here.
You said something there that I want to circle back to real quick, because you just said it like it's such a casual thing that you right at the beginning you had a lot of traction, a lot of interest in the product. Where did that traction and interest come from? Because I feel like a lot of people who are just starting off, especially people who are like me who are more technical and not very marketing oriented, that is the hardest part of a lot of these businesses. So I'd love to know, like, where did you generate those first customers from?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are not a venture-backed company, right? So we are not educating the market, spending money teaching people this new thing. So like if you think about Clay, they coined this term GTM engineer, and they've raised a couple $100 million, and they are going out saying to the world, like, there's a better way. You should be working differently than you are right now, right? So we're going to educate you about that. We're going to buy billboards. We're going to do a user conference. We're going to pay like a team of people to create content online. And they're engaged in category creation. They're making a new thing. We are not doing that. We are bootstrapped. We are capturing a slice of existing demand.
Right.
So it's just a really different business model, different capital requirement to start this kind of company. I'm not independently wealthy, so it was like, okay, I got to start somewhere. So basically it was like I had some jobs that were not great. They were fine in some ways, not great in other ways. And I was just kind of sick of it. And it was before my wife and I decided to start trying to have kids and grow our family. I said, listen, let me just kind of go out on my own, see what I can do. I've worked for enough people that it's like, I mean, I feel like I'm just as smart as some of these people I've worked for based on my experience working for them. So why not me? If they have a company, why couldn't I have a company, you know? And so it was a way to get to unlock my schedule and to start just working on ideas and discovering problems and make money and have an independent, flexible schedule and things like that. And then this problem surfaced through that work as something that there was existing demand for, basically. Right. And I placed a couple bets early on that the existing tools wouldn't build the features that SmartLead had built originally. Right? Like that was a critical thing. If some of the existing sequencers early on started adding support for, in this case, like multi-domain outbound, and if they changed their pricing a little bit, like everything would have been different had that happened. But in talking to users of those products, of those legacy products, it just didn't seem like it was going to happen anytime soon. So it's like, okay, check. That was like the first thing that could have stopped this thing completely. The second was that that they would like continue to get results, that it wasn't just like a weird quirky loophole, but that actually this is a different way and there's a lot of technical reasons why it's generating results for people. And that passed, like that happened. And then that if both of those things were true, then that if you think about the adoption curve, like it's like a bell curve, that's a real thing. So over time, the number of people who might be interested in this thing has gone up because like there's these laggards in this bell curve that are adopting it for various reasons. And so we've been able to kind of ride with that wave. So yeah, so it was kind of a bet on like a few different things had to be true. And we're in the business of like capturing that demand. We build for power users. It's why we first connected, you know, because when I saw what you guys were building at Drippy, it's ahead of the market. Most people aren't even thinking about what's possible with X and what's happening on X. It's just like not on people's radar. But I think that it might be, just kind of from following what's going on there and talking to some of our really power user agencies that we work with. I think it's really interesting. And I looked around and you guys were the best as far as I could tell. No offense to anybody else, but you just, appreciate that. You know, you're in a class of your own. So so I think our job is to kind of catch stuff early, codify what it would look like to support that in like a formal system, and then just sort of let time play out. And so now like the leads that we're getting today are asking the same questions that my customers were asking me 3 years ago. Like identical discovery process. I think we're landing in spam. We're checking out instantly. We just started or whatever. We just started looking at it now, or SmartLead or whatever. Just realized I don't have any way to get these emails into HubSpot. Like that, those are 3 years ago were the questions that were being asked, right? And that's no offense to anybody that's going through that now, but so that's kind of our job.
That's just how adoption curves work.
And then and then just like kind of ride that wave, and then like features we built years ago, people want. So now if we build features today, my guess is if I keep getting it right from a product perspective as a founder, because that's kind of my job. I'm like the product owner. It's like my real main job. If I keep making those decisions right, every time I get that right, I'm paving runway in the future, basically.
Yep. No, that makes a ton of sense. And I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into like, I guess my question for you would be, as you know, the technical person who's been there before, where I feel like I've identified a problem where there's demand for it. That's still only half of the equation, where it's like, how do you get this solution in front of the people who need it in the first place? So how did you approach that, especially like in the early days, to find those first customers?
Yeah, posting on my LinkedIn was really the main thing, and then I was really involved in some WhatsApp communities where I was kind of getting a sense of what was going on in the outbound space. But really, honestly, posting on my LinkedIn and the network and relationships I had built. So once we got off the ground, then identified. And I decided to shut down my agency. Then other agencies started pinging me and saying, hey, been watching what you're doing, saw you're shutting down, so you're not really a competitor with us anymore. Would love to see if we could use OutboundSync for some of our clients. And so with agencies, usually like it starts with one client that's like really particular, and then the agency sees how well it works. They say, we should get this with some other ones. Like, I want to be able to attribute this revenue. I want to be able to do this or that with our other clients. And so then it kind of snowballs, and we have really nice expansion revenue that happens in the agency motion. Okay. So that was like getting this thing. off the ground was kind of a combination of my agency and my LinkedIn, and then really getting it flying was partnering with other agencies. And now I think this like next leg of the journey is going to be continuing to work with agencies. Like that's core to our business, but I think also increasing the direct teams we work with. Like we've got some pretty big enterprise deals that we're talking to right now, with like some pretty well-known tech companies that would be pretty cool customers to have. So I think that'll be kind of like part of the next part of the journey for us is selling more to direct teams while we continue to nurture the agency relationships.
Right. I think working with agencies makes a ton of sense just because like the nature of agencies is that they have to do their own marketing. And a lot of the times that means that, your product gets shared within their marketing, or, they're just, every single customer that they touch, that's if they're already using you, that person is using your product. So that just kind of multiplies your growth there. I heard Alex typing a second ago, which usually means he has a question. So Alex, what do you got?
No, I'm just writing down notes. But I guess on the same vein, I heard there was a little laser tag event back earlier this year. So like, have you been doing any more of those? Does that play into kind of the go-to-market strategy for OutboundSync, or how did that go? This episode is brought to you by Flywheel. So we grew our first SaaS company, Drippy.ai, to over $1 million in revenue relatively quickly, but we had one big problem. It was insanely high monthly churn. Users were leaving left and right, and we had no idea they were unhappy until it was too late. And so that's why we built Flywheel. Flywheel predicts who's going to churn before obvious signs, and then it reaches out automatically via Slack, SMS, email, or wherever your users might be. And so if you're a B2B SaaS founder that's struggling with churn, make sure to check out flywheel.cx. For a limited time, we're running free 60-day pilots, so if you're interested, make sure to book your demo by going to flywheel.cx. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a feeling that Clay might do a user conference. So I had some moles. Honestly, like I had a few different people I was asking about it, of like, I heard word, so I was like pinging them like pretty regularly, like, hey, if you hear anything, you need to let me know. What city is it going to be in or whatever. So I was really on top of it. And so when the word was finally announced, I was already ready to go. We had a plan that we were going to do laser tag for agencies only the day before Clay's conference. And, a lot of everyone that was there basically knew each other already, but they had never met in person before. And the way that a lot of this go-to-market stuff is as it's becoming more mainstream, in my opinion, the agencies are being a little bit undervalued. We're undervalued, and then now are being a little underappreciated from my point of view. I think the role they play is super important in terms of like discovering new tools, discovering how to integrate them, discovering just like that perfect use case. They're tough customers to have, because they're really like relentless, and they will bring the pressure that they have from their client, they will bring to bear on you sometimes, which I'm sure you guys can speak to that. And so the idea was like, hey, let's just do something fun for them, and see if I can get some sponsors to help cover the cost. And we got a few great companies to come on board and help sponsor it. So yeah, we got buses, we got rented out a whole laser tag place, we got trophies, we got just an insane amount of food. I way over ordered the food. Like the person at the place was like, he literally refused to take the order. He was like, I'm going to lower the amount of food on here. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to do this. Wow. I was like, look, everyone's just, like, I put in this form of like, do you have any dietary restrictions? And the only thing I got back, 15 people said meat. Like, I want meat, because it's just like these meathead guys that are just like adrenaline junkies that do Cole's Outbound.
Agency bros.
Yeah. Like Brandon Charlson, Eric Nowoskowski. I mean, these guys they're jacked. I mean, they're legit. Alex Fine. I mean, they're really big strong. Dudes. So I'm like, okay, like I gotta feed them. I'm not gonna invite everybody out here and then like not have enough food.
No food, yeah.
But the guy like refused. So I was like, fine. So okay, we dialed back the order. But then I got another bunch of RSVPs. So I called him back. I'm like, guess what, dude? I'm increasing the order back to what I wanted to do in the first place. Anyway, he was right. It was like way too much food. But whatever. I would rather have too much than too little.
Right.
So yeah, so we had a good time. We had a photo booth. And I think the idea was just like to get people in the room and have fun. A lot of our growth has been organic. We solve a really specific problem. And so, if you really need to get this stuff into your CRM, we really do it better than anybody. I've spent more time thinking about this than literally anybody in the world. And I think that we've built we have some really good stuff coming in terms of our roadmap. So it's just not a huge problem. And so not a ton of people are working on it. But for the people who have it, it's an important problem. And that's where we sit. And sort of our growth strategy is to kind of keep adding more channels and just for these teams, keep giving them more ways to grow their business and then get it ingest that data back into their system of record in a way that they can use for stuff.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I have a question
I'd love
there.
to.
I just have a
Oh,
quick
go for it,
follow-up.
Alex.
Was it like current clients, or was it also just people in the agency space that maybe were good prospects as well? Like, was it a combination of both?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was both for sure. I mean, if it was basically if you were on an agency and you're legit, you know, we would get you an invite. It was kind of an if you know, you know. There wasn't like a public event page for it. We never like announced it.
No.
It was more like Whisper Network invitation only. But everybody that was there basically had somebody else vouching for them that they would be fun to have there. We incidentally, a few people that went did end up becoming customers. A few people, quite a few that were there are customers. Yeah. But I didn't even care. We brought on enough other sponsors and stuff that I didn't need to. I didn't need to. It didn't matter. It was just like it was honestly partly just fun for me. Of like I've been grinding on this thing. Yeah. Like, let's just have fun and just do something silly and not do like a hotel happy hour thing with like little cheese ball croquettes and like, you know, boring hotel bar food or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know like how the ROI netted out on it, and I don't care. We're planning on something much bigger for next year, but I've got my mole network listening to see where, you know, what are some potential events that we can piggyback off of. But I've got some pretty awesome ideas, so we'll have to see what what comes of it. But yeah,
You're like I can't remember his name. You're like the bald guy from Game of Thrones with his little birdies.
Oh, totally. Yeah, Lord Varys for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving Varys. I mean, yeah, I definitely have a network. I mean, you know, the funny thing about what we do is that I knew a lot of people in the industry. So, like, you know, because we sit in this very specific spot that gives us like a really good vantage point. So it's easy to make some introductions. Like, you know, Alex, I was able to connect you with a few people pretty easily because we just have good visibility into kind of what's going on. So, yeah.
Which we really appreciate that, by the way. So thank you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, always happy to connect people. You know, what you guys are doing is super, super interesting.
Sweet, appreciate that. I'd love to ask you, like, dive into the product a little bit and ask you some questions on that side of things. So I know you're quote unquote like a non-technical founder. I know the lines there are kind of getting more and more blurry as AI gets better. Was it an intentional decision to build a product that's more back-end focused than front-end focused? Because I feel like as a technical person, this is a problem I see a lot of founders struggle with when they're non-technical. Is like working with engineers, especially with complex UIs and complex backends. I feel like potentially that just doing a kind of back-end focused product probably simplified things for you a lot, and maybe has potentially made that a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. So something that's kind of interesting about what we do is like there are things that are considered like table stakes for software products that we don't have to worry about. So, for example, workflow automation. HubSpot has and Salesforce both have very robust workflow automation tools in their products. Yep. They both have very robust reporting engines and like customizable reporting dashboards and things like that. So we don't have a reporting function in our app at all. We don't have a workflow function in our app at all. You know, our job is just to get the data. Like my product expertise on the CRM side, I think it's a form of technical knowledge, but basically I'm not a developer. Right. Mm-hmm. But I was able to come in with some pretty strong, I think, and well-placed opinions about what it should look like in the CRM. And that got, and so like the version 1 that I built when I handed it to the developer, obviously it needed work, but we are still largely shipping that product today. Like it is basically what I spec'd out 3 years ago. Some things have changed and we've solved a lot of really, really tricky problems along the way, but like fundamentally the product hasn't really changed much from what I felt like the need was a few years ago. And I do think that, you know, I mean, I built the first version with Make. I used ChatGPT initially to help me with like doing a few API calls in that first MVP that we built. But what we're doing now is definitely impossible to do with low code. And I mean, even with AI, like there's just some really, really weird, thorny, hard problems that we've had to solve for. But we use AI for like point solutions, but like I don't think you could one-shot what OutboundSync does today, just in terms of reliability and performance,
no,
and
definitely
security and stuff like that. But it helped me get that first rung of the ladder, for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like as well, like you taking the time to figure out how to do things with Make and ChatGPT has given you a really good understanding of like, okay, I understand generally. Like I feel like sometimes can be a divide between like the developers and, you know, a non-technical person, where it's like I really don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they can kind of pull a blank in front of my eyes. I've heard you in a few other podcasts, and it definitely sounds like you're talking about webhooks, you're talking about rate limiting. It seems like you have a fairly good understanding of what the devs are actually doing, and it seems like that has really helped you drive the product forward.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was using Grok this week. Like, we were setting up some intrusion. We have SOC 2, so part of that is having monitoring for like intrusion detection anomalies and stuff like that. And so I was using Grok to put together some alerts in our logging tool, and then like I did ship that myself. Now I'm going to have our engineers like double check it, but it's working very, very well from what I kind of initially shipped. And there are other things that come up around. So like one big problem is like we process a lot of data. Relatively speaking, not really, but in the grand scheme of things, it feels, whatever, it depends. It's all relative, but it's non-trivial amount. It's tens of millions of records every month. And so like part of it is like the order of operations. So like weird stuff comes up, like, so I'm getting, let's just say I send 10,000 emails out in a day. Because I can only log so many at a time into the CRM, I have to rate limit the rate at which we're feeding those into the CRM. But all 10,000 of those are not equally important. So if the 10,000th payload is actually like a reply, that's more important than the 9,999 that came before it, because time matters, speed to lead matters. And so I actually we want to pull that to the front of the queue. And then of the 9,999 that are left, all those are also not equally important, because there's one of those is a sent email related to that reply. So if I could also have that sent email, I want to put that to the front of the queue too. So we have that kind of like pull forward, right? And so there are some things where that there is like a product opinion there where like I don't know how to build that prioritization queue.
Yep.
Our engineers do that. They're really good at what they do. But I do know enough to like understand that problem and explain why it's important. Because they're like, well, dude, you can do whatever you want. Like they don't have a strong opinion about how we do it. And so that's kind of my job, is like talk to the users, understand the use cases. It's like, okay, yeah, that's important. Let's get that for this reason, so that they can do, get back to the lead quickly or whatever. There's like a lot of little like random stuff like that kind of comes up as we're building. That we discover as we build, and we just kind of keep getting better as we build. Security keeps getting better, and logging keeps getting better, and other things like that. And customers will ask like for really specific things. We're like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, let's build that feature, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about how you're thinking about which customer requests to build, and like how are you collecting? Are your customers just so engaged with the platform already that you're just constantly getting new ideas every day? And then if that is the case, like how are you deciding which of those are important to build? Because I think it's really easy to, once you start getting some customers, to have some ideas come in. If you build everything, your product is going to get bloated. So how do you decide what we should build and what should we kind of leave aside?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, one of the saving graces here is we're bootstrapped. So I just literally can't say yes to everything.
Right.
There's a forcing function. So between that, and I'm a dad, we've got 2 kids under, 5 and under. So, I mean, I'm just constantly saying no to stuff, basically, and so you just have to be able to say no to things and be comfortable being like, sorry, and on the home front, sometimes that means crying. Sometimes that means, very big feelings, upset that we can't, have cookie for breakfast or something like that. And just kind of got to be okay with like, hey, I'm not the most popular guy right now, and that's okay. So sometimes it's just like you just know, you have to accept that you can't say yes to everything. So like that's a given. So given that you can't say yes to everything, and that you have to say no to some things, then from there kind of weighing things. So kind of the first thing for us, like we're a middleware tool. So like one of the initial questions is like, is there a way to do this with the existing tools that we already integrate with? Yes, we could build this in the middle, but like, can you just do this natively in HubSpot? If so, we're probably going to push someone to do that there. Or do we think that this is a quirk of one platform where one platform has failed to support something, but the other ones support it? We say, yeah, that's just kind of on them. It's going to be really difficult for us to bridge a gap. They just don't support that. And so we can't support it for that tool. If that's super important to you, you might want to think about using one of these other tools. So that's like kind of like the next wave. That's like the first wave of saying no to things. is like looking at what's like currently possible, and then is it like a weird exception, or is it just something we shouldn't do? Then after that, I tend to think about, what I talk about a lot is like we help winners win. So, we work with the best agencies in the world, period. They really do run the best campaigns for the best companies. Our agencies are running campaigns for, like Reddit, for HubSpot, for, literally like some of the best technology companies in the world and others. They're booking meetings literally with companies like Apple and OpenAI. They are booking meetings with the best. So they truly are doing exceptional work. And so we weight their opinion pretty heavily. And then especially when it's when I can kind of see what the use case is, how it will enable something for them. So
Right.
Omnichannel is something we expanded into when we added support for HeyReach. That was a big one. And our focus is going to be on more channels in 2026. The other one is going to be like on composability, giving people more control over what data syncs where and when, so that they can do more omnichannel work. And like when users are requesting features around that, there starts to kind of be a pattern, and you start to just be like, okay, that makes sense as a feature. If we ship these few things together, it'll enable like an extension of what we're doing today. So that usually, that's kind of how we end up. We talk to users a lot. We're in Slack with majority of our users, have a Slack channel with us. Every 1 to 2 months, I'll broadcast message to all of our agency partners. Hey, these are the 3 things we're thinking about building. Which ones of these do you like? Is there anything we're missing? Let us know. And so we'll do that pretty regularly to get feedback too.
Yeah, that's super smart. I'd love to know, like, so you're plugged into both HubSpot and Salesforce. I'm not super familiar with either of those products, but I do imagine that they have some sort of app marketplace. Has that been something you've been able to leverage as a growth channel at all, or has it mostly just been you have to drive all your own sales?
No, they haven't done anything for. On the margin, some people will search for us in the marketplace. The demand that they create for us is just that they exist and they have this huge customer base. That's right. Which is awesome. I'm super grateful to work for them. But no, nobody from either of those companies is like, hey, Harris, you're building for us. We super appreciate that you've taken 3 years of your life to build this product for our platform. We want to help you be successful here. Can we introduce you to customers? What can we do to help you succeed here? No, that's not a thing.
I feel like
there's a handful of amazing people, like Jennifer Dixon that works for HubSpot now. Like she works in developer relations. She's amazing. So, but like in general, they're not like, we want to make you rich, dude.
Yeah. I feel like when companies hit a certain size, like that sort of stuff just ceases to exist, even if you're paying them a ton of money. I was dealing with the same thing with Google Cloud the other week, where we pay them thousands of dollars per month, and like I can't even get a real person to reply to my email, or even like a real person to reply to my chatbot message. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So and that's okay. It's a double-edged sword.
Yep.
There is no plow for us, and so they're creating market that we can kind of go behind them, but they don't know that we're back there, basically.
Yep. Sweet. Alex, you got anything else?
Dude, yeah. So I guess I'm thinking about the building a SaaS, and this is something we were touching up on here earlier, but just for the non-technical founder that's listening to this, what would you say is the key to hire devs? Because for example, if Jane wasn't in the picture and I was trying to build a software company, I'd have no clue where to go, what to look for. So I think that would be really useful to just our listeners to kind of know how you went about that process.
Yeah. The most important thing is you have to know what you're handing them. And the way to know what you're handing them is you have to have some commercial validation for what you're building in the first place. I think that building an MVP with no code or with vibe coding is a really good first step, and then getting customers to be like, yep, I would pay for this, and even getting them to pay for the bad version of the product. Maybe that means bundling some services with it just to so that they're getting value, and that they're be more patient. Yeah, that hybrid. If you can do that, if you're in some sort of services type thing. But if your goal is to have a SaaS, you just have to be careful, because it's really hard to go from services revenue to SaaS revenue.
Yeah.
Because it's a totally different business. It's a totally different way of making money. It's totally different ways that those businesses are valued and things like that. but the better you know what you're building, the easier time you'll have finding a developer, because you'll be able to ask what you need, and then just kind of asking around, talking to other people who may know engineers, or talking to some like engineer recruiting firms. There's some development shops that kind of specialize in helping build MVPs. But I think that it's much more important to know what you're building and what you're going to hand to them than it is like who makes it.
Okay.
Because the better that is. I mean, in general, and with hiring, I've found is like, if you're a founder, if you have the capacity or capability of being a founder, you're unusual. You have an unusual like makeup, constitution. Like I actually don't think every single person in society could or should be an entrepreneur. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like a special class of people or whatever, but I just like some people just don't have the temperament for it, and like, thank God, because you need like different kinds of things. Like you need people who are patient out there to like be a pediatric like dentist. Like if you're a founder, like you're not going to be patient. You're itchy. You want to go, and you're like you got to sit with a kid and like drill into their teeth to fix a cavity or whatever. Like that just requires patience. And like, I mean, I have some patience in some areas of my life, but in general, I'm like, let's go. And there's jobs where that's not a good fit for. You got to just like take it slow, take it easy. You're a airline pilot. It's like, yep. We're going to take our time. We're not going to go nuts here. We're going to take our time. I want that steady person at the wheel. So. But if you have that in you, you have that itch. Most people aren't like that. And so what I found when hiring, my general hiring advice, I do feel like I am in a position to somewhat give hiring advice now, because I've now had a bunch of really successful hires in a row, is that the narrower the scope of the hire, the better. So like expecting to hire someone and they'll come in and like do everything, like every time I've ever thought that would happen, it has literally never worked, ever. Like it has always been a failure. The narrower the scope is, the more specific the thing is, the better. So like your job as a founder is to do every job reasonably well, and then calve off. Like have you ever seen a glacier where like it's called calving, where the pieces like split off? You got to split off parts of that job and then hand them to specialists that can just do that one thing, and do that one thing 40 hours a week better than you were doing it like 1 to 5 hours a week. So that would be like the hiring advice in general. And so if you can hire a dev and you can narrow the scope of what they need to build, then you'll be much more likely, or find a co-founder, you'll be much more likely to be successful if you can like be specific about what they need. And so that's been my like focus the last few months, has been like, okay, I'm getting legal help here. We're getting HubSpot technical assistance here, Salesforce technical assistance here. We're bringing on a test QA engineer, bring on like very specialized people to solve very specialized problems. And then for me to like do less of that stuff. So
no generalist rule.
I'm
hard.
pretty anti.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty anti. I mean, I don't know, whatever. You figure it out for yourself. You're probably better. Maybe you're better at it than me. Like
no, but I agree. I honestly, I agree.
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Sure. Because that like poorly defined scope, like it's just. The people who are really good at functioning that way are probably doing their own
Founders.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like finding someone who has the ability to generally do a lot of things and also would be willing to work for you, like
that's the
I think it's uncommon.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there. They're totally out there. Yeah. But I just think it's uncommon.
Yeah,
and that you would be able to afford them.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Too. Right. So you can hire a specialist and just get a chunk of their time. So you can hire a specialist for 5 hours a week, and they can do that one thing for 5 hours a week better than you could do it for 5 hours a week. And you don't have to have a lot of money to do that, to hire that out. So like the hires we're making are fractional specialists, anywhere from 5 to 20 hours a week to do certain things. Like it doesn't have to be full time, and a lot of people do fractional freelance stuff. So yeah.
I'd love to know like what a few of those positions are. Do you have like a fractional CFO or something? Like what are those fractional positions that you're utilizing, and kind of what order did you add those people in?
Sure. So we went me, then full-time and part-time engineer, part-time full-stack engineer. He started, I don't remember how much, maybe 5 hours a week or something like that. And then we got enough traction that we did that accelerator with Tiny Seed, and so bumped him to full-time, and then hired a CSM. Full-time CSM, so that I could get onboarding off my plate and focus on sales more and product more. Then we added, then no hiring for a while. that team of 3 got us pretty far for a while. Then we added another full-time engineer. Then I've had an accountant the whole time, but I mean, it's not like a full-time CFO or whatever, but like I've had an accountant the whole time, so that's part of it. Then we added, I'm trying to think of the order. Legal, brought a law firm on a retainer basis because we just had a lot of legal stuff that we needed to kind of level up and improve. Then I'd had like an hourly attorney before, but I was using kind of sparingly because it was hourly. When we had these people on as a retainer, it's been much better, more effective being able to just kind of crank through stuff. And a graphic designer, because I was spending a lot of time in Canva doing like little stuff, and then found an awesome graphic designer. So that's been like super worth it. I still use Canva a little bit, but not as much as before. And then test and QA, and then a HubSpot kind of implementation expert who's helping with HubSpot packages and product opinion about like how to make that better. Because we have like in many ways like hit the like depth of my understanding of HubSpot and Salesforce. Now that the product is so mature, like we're starting to go into new areas of those platforms that I don't really know about as well as I know the like the core data model of HubSpot and Salesforce. But like, so yeah. And then we'll be doing the same for Salesforce. We'll be bringing on a Salesforce like implementation person in the new year, and then after that, we'll probably be a marketer. So yeah, that's been kind of our hiring order.
Awesome. It's crazy to me that both HubSpot and Salesforce have built these products that are so large and so complex that like it's a lot of people's full-time salary just helping other people do random stuff within these platforms. Like I'm pretty sure the Salesforce like services industry is like hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It's a massive industry, which is just absurd to me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's huge. It's huge because it's business. It's like how you run. It's the operating system of the business. So requirements are always changing, processes are always changing. People are going, it's complicated. Like the things that those bigger companies need, it's just so much more than people realize. And people are like, oh, I'm going to vibe code my own CRM. We're like, okay, like that's fine. You probably can for yourself, but just like to be like, and Salesforce stinks. We're like, no, it's just different, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like you don't need Salesforce. That's true. But like your vibe coded CRM is probably an alternative to Pipedrive, not Salesforce, right? Because what they do is just so complicated.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned briefly a second ago was Tiny Seed. I'd love for you to dive a little bit more into like what that process was like, because it's something that Alex and I have discussed, looking into before.
Yeah, well, you may be past the point where you don't need it. As far as I understand, I won't share your numbers, but my understanding of your numbers is that you're doing great. So next time we go out, I'm pretty sure drinks are on you guys. But
I don't know. It's been a bad month, to be honest.
All right, I got it. Tiny Seed is an accelerator. I followed the founder, Rob Walling, for a long time through his podcast. So, when I first went out on my own in 2019, it was like literally 8 months before the whole world shut down. So it was pretty bad timing. But maybe it was perfect timing because I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have done it if I had waited. So who knows, right? But
for me, quick tangent. Sorry to cut you off. COVID was like this kind of is going to sound horrible. COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it was my junior year of college. I was just learning to code at the time, and basically all my classes went online. No one knew what was going on, so I just spent every day just like working on this one side project that I had, and I was able to spend like most of my time doing that and just like cheating on my tests and stuff. Hopefully my mom doesn't listen to this.
Shame, bro.
But yeah, I don't know if I would be here right now if it wasn't for COVID. So
I mean, it changed a lot, and I think we're all still kind of wrapping our heads around what that was.
Yep.
I think it was an accelerator for a lot of things that were kind of already happening in some ways, and it just like hit the gas on that. I think we're in a huge time of change right now. I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be pretty tumultuous. So, if you're thinking about doing something big, you might as well do it now, because I don't think things are going to get easier anytime soon, basically. But I think things are going to be different, hopefully better, hopefully better in the future, but we'll see. This might age really poorly. But hopefully things are good. Hopefully at some point things are going to chill out. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of change happening around the world across like every dimension of society. So yeah, but Tiny Seed, I would listen to these podcasts with Rob. His podcast is called Startups for the Rest of Us, and I would listen to him, and I would. My daughter was born, and we would walk around, or I'd walk around a park by our house, and I would listen to these podcasts, and she would be asleep in the stroller. And I had this idea of like, I want to build a SaaS one day. And I was spending a lot of time. I was a entrepreneur. I mean, I was working for myself, but I was a one-man sales consultancy. I wasn't formally like a founder, a CEO or whatever at the time. I was like a freelancer, which is totally cool. There's no shame in it. But I was spending a lot of time in these like entrepreneur communities or whatever. And it was like, all right, I got to just like, none of the people that are here have done this before. So they can't tell me what to do. And none of them have enough money to be customers. So like, yes, I feel the sense of camaraderie and I've learned a lot, but like, if I'm going to move this thing forward, I need to get myself into a different like fishbowl, because this isn't it. So I like disconnected a lot of stuff. I left some Slack groups and whatever. And I focused on kind of getting out in the market and working with customers more. And then I came back to Tiny Seed later when I had a few different SaaS ideas that didn't pan out. This one then started to get traction, came back to Tiny Seed. And then it was like pretty quick because I met all their criteria at that point. But it was really clear that I met the criteria. And before that, none of my other ideas had enough traction to really get there. I think OutboundSync was my fourth. I had a total of 5 SaaS ideas that I tried. And it was just like by far and away the best one that worked the best. So then, yeah, did Tiny Seed. They give like a year of mentorship and programming, give some funding, basically bought out the need for me to work in my agency, because I had to shut down the agency, go all in on the SaaS. But yeah, I mean, we got a house. We had a second house. We moved to a new house and did a ton of remodeling on it. We had 2 kids. Like I had bills. So I couldn't just be like ramen profitable. Like I have substantial bills that I have to clear every single month. So it helped cover that. And then, yeah, but then we hit profitability. And so then we've been kind of in the air since then.
Congratulations on the profitability. That's huge.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a big milestone for sure.
Yeah. One of the things Alex mentioned to me which blows my mind, is that you guys have 160% NRR and 0.8% churn. That is insane numbers to me. So how did you do that? Because I need that in my businesses.
Well, so agencies are great partners for us, and they have really good expansion revenue. We help them grow. So a lot of NRR is agencies adding more clients when they work with us, because we help them prove their results, and so they want to have more of their customers using our product. And when they prove the results, they build a better business, and then they kind of grow. So there's a really natural flywheel there. We've got some expansion revenue when we move to more of a usage-based tiered usage system. So we have some expansion revenue from that, which helps with the NRR number specifically. Churn is low because people don't change their CRM a lot.
Yep.
So and as we add more channels, we help mitigate that churn more and more, because we can say, listen, you're not going to stop doing outbound. Maybe you're not going to do it this way, but you can do it another way. And we support that other way too. And you're still going to be in Salesforce. That's not going to change. So kind of stick with us. So yeah, I think there's some fundamentals that make this a good business in a lot of ways. There's other things that those same things make it hard in other ways, but there's some fundamentals that I think make it a good business. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex and I were having a conversation before when we were prepping for this call, and he's like, "We got to figure out how his churn is so low and how his NRR is so high." I was like, "I think his answer is going to be that his business has good fundamentals." Like, I don't think the answer is going to be that much more complex than that, because I wrote an article.
Yeah, go.
Sorry, I wrote an article a while ago now. I was trying to think about. I was thinking about starting a new company and trying to think about if I could, knowing everything that I know now, what would I do differently? And I realized that one of the most important things is having a business model that's inherently sticky. So for you there's a bunch of different ways that you're inherently sticky. One is that you're serving agencies. 2 is that it's a deeply integrated product with like a high cost of switching. Like I imagine that like it's probably a pain to pull you out of a system once you're already there. So just when you have those things going for you, it makes it a ton easier.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely right, for sure. I think we moved really early and really fast. Other people have been like, oh, like I could do that. We had several competitors who they didn't quit their agency. Basically, I had several competitors who I think they maybe still be running their own like kind of bespoke version of this integration idea. I know at least one of them shut down. I mean, here's one funny story. I don't know if I've ever really talked about this, but we had somebody who joined a call with me basically like a month after our full code refactor was done. Mm-hmm. So, because before when it was make, it was a huge pain. It wasn't really a SaaS yet. But anyway, so we refactored it, and so I was promoting that, and so somebody got on a call with me, and they asked me for a really detailed demo, and so I shared every single thing about how it worked, and then I didn't really hear back from them. I later learned that they had been like kind of building something similar, and then a year after we had that call, somebody got on a call with me, and he said, "Hey, somebody sent me a demo they did with you, and they asked me to build like a clone of what you built about a year ago."
That's crazy.
And they gave me a budget of $2,000 to build the whole thing. And
easy.
Yep. And it's like, God, I wish, you know. And then and he's like, and eventually, like they didn't want to pay me anymore to work on it. I was like, surprise, surprise, their budget was $2,000. He's like, and they just kind of gave up on it. So I think the fundamentals are good, but we also, like, I had been working towards this for a long time. So when it was kind of like the laser tag thing, when it felt like the things were lining up, it was like, let's go.
Yep.
You know, I saw a post on X. I forget who did it, whatever, but it was like, basically opportunities don't actually come along that often. So if one comes along, you better go for it. And I think that was what this was, because several other people kind of saw this need. What I'm doing is not splitting the atom. It is not that novel. It's like pretty obvious, like, hey, these tools should talk to each other. I get asked that question all the time of like, why do you exist? Why don't the sequencers just do this? Like literally every week I get that question. So like, and that's okay. Like it's it doesn't hurt my feelings. But like, you know, so I think that part of the reason why we have those good numbers is because we are the only solution to do this right now. And I think part of the reason why we're the only solution to do this right now is because I moved really aggressively after it. And part of the reason why, I mean, and I'm sure different people are at different stages and phases of their life, but if, you know, you're listening to this to learn about SaaS and you're earlier on, like, I started my life, like I've been married, we owned a house, we had a mortgage, I had kids. So it's kind of like, you know, you have something, you know, you can't just be like learning forever. You take the training wheels off and you just got to go and ride the bike. And you just got to do it. And like, that was the case with this. And I would say that's like the case for life in general. Like you just can't wait for everything to be perfect. And so I think that's like part of what contributes to our numbers, because I see other parts of the outbound space where it is more competitive, and I see that they're chewing each other up on margins, and they're in these like kind of feature races because it is so competitive. So I think that's like part of it. Who knows? Yep. There are a lot of other ways to do what we do, but we don't have any like exact peer competitors, if that makes sense. So as long as I continue to get our positioning right, I think people see us in a class of our own, even though technically speaking, there's like literally an infinite number of ways to get this data over there. Our positioning is such that people, but you're like the way to do it, really, right? And the reality is like, yeah, we are, you know. So I think that's part of it.
Yep. And I didn't mean to say that in a way that I didn't want you to think I'm minimizing your business's good fundamentals. I really just wanted to point out that, because I feel like if I could go back to when I was starting Drippy, I wish I would have started a different business. I wish I had been thinking about what is the natural level of churn that this product is going to have. That wasn't even a concept that was in my mind. At that point, I just thought, you know, once they get a customer, they're probably going to stay forever. And that could not be farther from the truth. So yeah, just something for people to think about.
I didn't take it that way at all. Yeah, I didn't take it that way at all. No.
Well, I didn't think so. Just wanted to clarify.
And then another thing. Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, you have to choose where you're going to spend your time, you know, and is the juice worth the squeeze, for sure. Mm-hmm. You have to make sure that it feels like it's an idea where if everything goes right, how big could this get? What's the like natural ceiling of this of this thing that I'm working on? I think definitely everyone owes it to themselves to ask that question, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think another thing that we're forgetting to mention is, dude, I've heard from everyone that your guys' Harris, so like OutboundSync support from you and from your like team is just elite. So I think that's another huge thing that has a lot to do with your guys' like NRR being through the roof, churn being super low. So props to you guys for that, because literally everyone I've talked to is just like, yeah, no, Harris's support is just on another level. So that, and then the other thing, we have the same, like something very similar happened with Drippy. I don't think I ever told you, Jane. I was just hopping on calls.
Dude,
and then
I was gonna bring up like 3 different examples
Dude,
of times this happened today.
That happened so many times.
Oh, people just trying to just rip you off. Yeah, totally.
People who ripped us off, people who literally copied our exact landing page.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a guy who was on a bunch of calls with me, and then like 3 months later, it pops up with the same exact product.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be inspired by people. It's another thing to just be a loser. And you know, like if you're, you know, good luck, basically. If you're gonna really spend your, you know, if you're gonna let another company like live rent free in your head, you're just gonna try to steal what they're doing. You know, you're gonna have a hard time because they will always be ahead of you. Now, maybe you get some inspiration. Like I got tons of inspiration for what we're building. Like I said, what I'm doing is not novel. It's unique, I think, in some ways, but yeah. And so kudos to you guys for keeping pushing. On the support side, I mean, yeah, I do take that really seriously. I mean, I'm answering support stuff at any time I see it on my phone. Our CSM works really hard on that, but I support him. I mean, we do it together. I think that's like one of my benefits of coming from the agency side,
Right.
is that you have to learn customer service and you have to learn like the value of a client. And so I bring that focus to our SaaS because I know that our agencies ultimately, if they have a problem, it affects their client. And so, and they are many times charging substantially more than we are charging them.
Yeah.
But I try to act like, you know, I try to act like that's not that we don't have that differential, but like, I mean, we have agencies who they're charging their clients $5, $10, $15, $30,000 a month retainers, you know, for services, and then they're paying us like a couple $100 on like a $30K a month retainer, where they wouldn't have that client if they didn't have our product. Like that client says to them, like, a strict requirement is this data must be in Salesforce, period. Otherwise, we will not move forward. And so we could, in theory, be like leveraging that more, but I'm not. Our growth comes when they add more clients. Like, so we try to play long-term games, long-term people. Support is a really big part of that. It's why we just invested in a test engineer to try to improve, and that's why we invested in these HubSpot and Salesforce like experts to help us build better packages and to understand the product better. So, yeah, we try to take it really seriously, partially because we have to. So we sit in the middle, and in the beginning, we were like the least reputable piece of a chain. So whenever anything went wrong, they would always blame us. Like, well, you're just this guy working in your basement, dude. Like, you don't, you know, like, there's no way that HubSpot made a mistake
their
here.
fault,
You must have done something wrong, or not
Yep.
this sequencer who I know and I've been working with for X number of years. It's got to be you. So our like level of the bar that we had to meet repeatedly to like prove ourselves was pretty high. Now I think that we've come a long way from where we were before. We try to be super transparent. We maintain a status page. We have deep logs. We have massively improved our DevOps, like our infrastructure, and actually want to push us a lot further to be even more transparent about what's going on in our system. We build, the way I describe it is we build pipes. So I want people to be able to see see through the pipes and see what's going on. So I think there's actually a lot of room we can do to make that even better. And we've got some features that we're working on to accomplish that. But that's part of what drove the support focus, is like they were taking a chance working on us. And the reality is the sequencers make mistakes all the time, but they can hide them. They can just like not show it in the UI and the user doesn't know.
Yep.
Right? And they can just say, oh, yeah, no, we don't see anything on our end. Like, looks fine. And the user can't tell the difference. But with the CRM, it's not the case.
No.
Any mistake or any missing data, they know. And it's their system of record. And they have alerts. And they have workflows. And they have things that are... The CRM is monitoring the data and telling them, like, something is wrong. You know, data hygiene, you know, needs to be fixed. Duplicates are being created or whatever. So, like, if a sequencer messes up on something, like, 0.01% of the time, we're going to see that a couple dozen times. At least. So like that brings a level of scrutiny that I think a lot of people in the outbound space don't operate with, that we have to operate with. So that keeps us accountable, because it's like people know, people are paying attention, and they will ask. So yeah, that's part. Anyway, sorry, got me off, kind of going off on that.
That's
But
beautiful.
Yeah, no worries. I as soon as you mentioned the thing about like the the blame in the middle, I immediately thought like it's probably the sequencers that are causing problems, because your product is fairly simple, and these companies have all scaled so fast, and they have they're sending millions and millions of emails a day that it's easier for stuff to go wrong there than it is in your product. But
I mean, little surprising things go wrong. Like, you'd think that if you have I won't name names because it doesn't matter, but if you have a sequencer,
Nah, call them out. Let's hear it. Put them on blast.
Your core data model, one of your core objects is, let's just say, leads. So you've got a table in your database of leads, and every lead has an ID. Lead number 1, number 2, number 3. You would think that any time that we would get a payload with a lead, that it would have a lead ID. Like, how could it not? Literally, how could it be in a database when the primary key of the table is lead ID? But sure enough, we get leads, but they don't have a lead ID. Like, how is that even possible? I literally, technically, don't even understand. I don't understand how it's possible, but it happens. So, it's like stuff like that. You're just like, but it's okay. I mean, we're again, like, these platforms are the snowplow. We're behind them, and so we're grateful that they're creating this space for us to exist and try to build on top of them. And what they're doing is hard, and I respect it. But there's definitely times where it makes our job a little harder sometimes.
Alex, what else you got, brother?
Dude, I think we're coming up on time, so I want to be respectful of Harris's time. Maybe if you got one last question, Jane, for Mr. Harris Kenny.
I think I went through all my notes here. Am I missing something? You tell me.
No. I think that's all I got too. I think the last thing is just like emphasis on how crazy it is that you guys have like 160+% NRR. Like,
congratulations.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a company who's with NRR that like high. That's crazy. It's just, I feel like especially in the go-to-market like SaaS space, like it's unheard of, like literally unheard of. Like you guys probably don't even. Yeah.
I actually honestly think that we will be able to get that to over 200%, because if we start adding more channels, it's going to be, there are some really interesting channel ideas that we've talked about. Integrating with you guys is one of them. Phones, LinkedIn paid ads is another one. There's a bunch of these master inbox universal inbox tools that are coming out. There's a lot, website visitor data. There's a lot of other channels that we could be adding, and I think that as we add more channels, we can kind of just become like, okay, everything can feed through this one choke point to get that data really deeply mapped into the system of record. So I think that we can actually get that number up even more, because as they add more channels, they'll be sending us more data, and that's what we build off of.
Yeah.
And hopefully the goal is that we're creating more value for them. We're helping them better attribute what's going on, because some of these companies are spending like millions of dollars on their growth engine and their team and the tools and all that stuff. And frankly, not getting great visibility into what's actually working and not. And so I think that we'll see. It's early days. Maybe this is just like a little quirk of being an early stage company, but we've been working on this for almost 3 years. I don't think that NRR number is a flash in the pan. I do think we can actually make it even better. But we'll have to see.
Dude,
so what I'm hearing is there's even more outbound that needs to get synced, and you're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly right.
We'll wrap it up with that horrible pun from my end.
Page one of the pitch deck. There's more outbound that needs to be synced. Exactly. Let that sink in.
Harris, is there anything else that we missed? Anything else you want to share with our audience before we sign off?
No, guys, it was great chatting with you. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I have a ton of respect for what you're doing, so it's fun to just chat and talk about what we're doing and hear about what you're doing. So, yeah, all good. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on X now as well. Recently got back on there, and then our website's just outboundsync.com.
Sweet. Thanks, man. We'll call it there.
Appreciate
Thanks, guys.
you.